Imagine asking someone about the first ever cover-based third-person shooter. What would their response be? Probably something like, "Please stay away from me, I'm calling the police," and then Gears of War, right? But there was another game that revolutionized the genre with its unique cover system way before Gears of War ever saw the light of day. It's called Kill Switch, and it was developed by Namco for PlayStation 2 and Xbox all the way back in 2003. With the tagline, "Take cover, take aim, take over," it's clear they recognized they had something special. Well, we could argue that games like Metal Gear Solid 2, Dead to Rights and Time Crisis already had cover mechanics implemented, but not in a way that defines the third-person shooter genre as it is today. Unfortunately, almost no one talks about Kill Switch anymore, which is a damn shame, because despite its age, it's still a masterpiece that holds up even to this day. So let's grab our heavy machine gun and dive into the action-packed world of Kill Switch to see what makes it so special.
Rules of the game are gonna change.
Kill switch.
The game begins now.
Although the game's plot is incredibly simple, it's unique enough to make me care about it even if just a little. We play as Nick Bishop, a super soldier who goes down with a few bullets, so I don't know what's really super about him. Well, we don't actually play as him since he's being controlled remotely by someone imaginatively called the Controller, via some kind of brain connection they keep calling Neuralink, which sounds like something an out-of-touch billionaire would come up with. Anyway, Bishop is a pawn, ironically, for someone named Archer. Jeez guys, those were the best names you could come up with. He uses Bishop's abilities in various missions to escalate tensions between the North and the West, so they can eventually go to war against each other. That way, he'll be able to rake in the billions by selling the Neuralink technology to the highest bidder. For a few missions, everything seems to be going according to plan, with some minor setbacks, like repressed memories and horrible headaches. Just when the controller is about to launch a biological warhead though, he gets hacked into oblivion by a mysterious woman simply called the Duchess. She takes control of Bishop and eventually his memories are restored, and he remembers the terrible truth of it all. Archer killed his wife, captured him, and turned him into a semi-sentient Action Man figurine. Bishop, enraged, storms a bad guy's base, spouts generic action movie lines, kills Archer, and walks away into a better tomorrow. It's quite clear that the game's plot wasn't the main focus. The game barely has any cutscenes, with one of them repeated at the beginning of each mission, to the point of annoyance. Most of the exposition happens during lengthy dialogue scenes where all you get to watch is Bishop's stupid drooling face. Splendid, really putting the super in Super Soldier here. To be fair, the premise is novel and I enjoyed the way the plot unveiled, slowly revealing its darker undertones and twists. Even though the characterization is non-existent and the story is incredibly by the numbers, it doesn't overstay its welcome and is a perfectly serviceable way to immerse you into the action. It definitely could give us more than the absolute bare minimum, but what can you do? For a 2003 game, Kill Switch doesn't look half bad. I mean, sure, there were plenty of better looking games for the PS2, but the textures here are detailed enough and each level has a unique atmosphere to it. There is a decent variety of locations you'll explore as well, such as the Middle East, underground military bases, refineries in the middle of the ocean, and even more exotic areas such as abandoned temple ruins. While the graphics are decent, they didn't quite blow me away, as the lighting is kinda flat and there aren't any set pieces to bring a special flair to its place. What impressed me though was the level design itself, as it was more complex than I expected, while maintaining a high level of believability. Even though the game made the classic trope of waist-high cover modern shooters abused to death, it has been implemented in a way that felt organic to me, managing to keep me immersed in the game's world. The effects and animations are awesome as well. I loved the way enemies would just dive for dear life to avoid an explosion or react to bullets and flashbangs. Their death animations were very dramatic too, making the combat that much more impactful. The only thing that felt lazy was the reload animations. Bishop just waves his arm around and the weapon is reloaded just like that. No switching mags or anything. Disappointing, but I got used to it. All in all, it's a classic military shooter through and through. Because of that, you'd expect the soundtrack to be your classic high-octane orchestral compositions, right? Well, yeah, let's not go crazy here, but they do have a unique style to them, which I appreciate. The music felt like it was inspired by Dead to Rights actually, another third-person shooter by Namco, which makes sense since both games had the same composer, Kevin Manthey. Yeah, I know, who gives a shit, right? His Wikipedia article doesn't even show his face. But yeah, the game's tracks feature a fascinating blend of electronic and orchestral sounds, making the action far more engaging and exciting than if a soundtrack had generic Call of Duty music. The rest of the soundscape is serviceable as well, the sound effects are juicy and the voice acting is on point. I also enjoyed the brief conversations the soldiers would have before noticing me. It made mindlessly gunning them down a bit more personal and that much more fun. Yeah, sorry everyone, I just love committing war crimes in video games. Yup. Anyway, while Kill Switch doesn't look like anything special graphics-wise, it has a foreboding atmosphere and an expertly crafted soundtrack. Both these elements manage to elevate the experience into an action-packed thrill ride you'll thoroughly enjoy. It doesn't waste your time, it's straightforward and just a fun time all around. I think we all know how third-person shooters work, right? You aim your little guy's gun to shoot other little guys, you can crouch and duck behind cover, while also performing sick dives to avoid enemy fire. Nowadays all this is pretty standard, but Kill Switch did it first, featuring the modern cover system as its core game mechanic. What surprised me the most is that despite its age, Kill Switch's gameplay doesn't feel at all dated. Bishop's movement is very fluid, the controls are intuitive for their time, and the shooting feels good and has weight to it. As for the cover system itself, it has all the classic bells and whistles you'd find in a modern third-person shooter. You can use every part of the environment as cover, while also having the ability to blind fire, lean out and shoot. Very innovative stuff for 2003, and the game really wants you to use this offensive cover system due to its brutally punishing combat. Even though your health regenerates, each hit decreases your max health and only a few bullets are enough to take you out. And guess what happens when you die? Well, you die, duh, but you have to restart the entire mission with no checkpoints whatsoever. Granted, the missions are fairly short, but still having to redo 20 minutes of progress due to a city ambush is frustrating. Despite the frustrations though, this more realistic approach made the gameplay all the more tense and calculated. I was gripping the controller and doing the classic gamer pose as I was killing my enemies and cleaning out every suspicious room like a proper soldier, using cover all the time, checking my corners, and even using grenades to flush enemies out. I became quite immersed in the game's action thanks to the organic level design and the surprisingly smart enemy AI. They'd constantly use cover strategically, using grenades to expose me, trying to flank me and surround me, while also hiding behind walls, waiting for me to drop my guard to riddle me with bullets. Unfortunately though, sometimes the enemies were too smart and the game became too dickish to be enjoyable. Most of the time, you'll be trying to progress through the level, when suddenly a whole squad of soldiers spawns out of nowhere, shooting at you from every conceivable direction. This makes it nearly impossible to defend yourself or retaliate effectively. Other times, the enemies would flat out refuse to leave their cover, forcing me to approach them, only to get ambushed by some asshole hiding out of my view, blasting me to bits. What is this trial and error bullshit? This is Kill Switch, not Dark Souls. Pissing off a Souls community aside, the game is hard and demands your undivided attention, which after a while can make it a bit of a slog to play, since it doesn't actually offer anything more besides the shooting and cover mechanics. The guns feel good to shoot bad guys with, but they're nothing special. There is an adequate selection of weapons, such as assault rifles, shotguns, and sniper rifles, but they are a bit generic and you won't feel the difference between an M4 and an AK-47 for instance. Your aiming speed can be a bit floaty as well, which can be a pain when the game forces you to leap out of cover and deal with enemies as quickly and efficiently as possible. But besides some turret sections and timed missions, there is nothing else to spice things up. Thankfully the game is short and doesn't become too boring, with 5 levels each having 3 or 4 missions for you to complete. After everything I've said, you may think I dislike the gameplay, but that'd be wrong. It can be repetitive and frustrating, but it's robust and has remarkably stood the test of time. Its realistic combat, immersive level design, and competent shooting create a very intense experience that kept me on the edge of my seat, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. If I had to describe it in one phrase, I'd say simple but effective. So, is Kill Switch worth playing today? Some would say the game is too simplistic and repetitive, ending up looking like more of a prototype than an actual complete experience. While these criticisms are valid, I believe its innovations in the genre and gripping gameplay make Kill Switch a worthwhile experience. By today's standards, it won't blow you away due to the lack of proper world building or any gameplay variation, but its excellent action, solid gunplay, and challenging difficulty will keep you engaged and wanting more. If you love third-person shooters, give this game a try. It's a piece of history that deserves your attention because without its contributions, the genre would not become the powerhouse that it is today. And that's all I had to say about Kill Switch. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stuff. You know how it goes. You can also support me on Patreon or become a channel member for early access to my videos and other perks. Have a great day, and until next time, take care and have fun.